Everything about the military is high demand, right? You're pretty much on an evaluation schedule every day. So every flight is a mini test. There's very few people that are good leaders in all scenarios. Before you become a good leader, you need to be a good follower. Sometimes I'll get critiqued by someone who just hasn't gone through what I've gone through. Right? They don't know what I've gone through. They don't know what it took for me to get here and why I'm making the decisions I'm making. All of us, mostly, have been offered the opportunity to be fathers. You definitely don't want to go through life without being a dad.
So I'm going to ask you this, Hassan, what's your purpose in life? Hello everybody, welcome to Finding Purpose with Nikhil. And today we have a very special guest. And as usual, I'll start off the podcast by a quote from Nelson Mandela. And this quote emphasizes the power of overcoming fear. So it goes like this: I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Our today's guest is a man for whom saying he's a brave man is an understatement. A man who has conquered fears from thousands of feet high in cockpit of a jet to navigating the chaotic world of angel investing. He's an Air Force pilot at the 15-wing Moose Jaw, also a flight instructor of CT-155 Hawk. He is a prominent ambassador and an angel investor for Startup TNT, helping fuel the next generation of tech founders. I met him at a networking event, and every interaction I've had with him is like getting a masterclass in leadership. There's so much to learn from him, a man with the strategic mind of a general and the heart and soul of an entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, Major Hassan Naqvi. Hi, Dington Hassan.
Good, Nikhil. Thanks very much for that intro. I love that quote and appreciate the kind words.
Well, I appreciate you for being on this podcast and giving us your time. So, Hassan, I want to talk to you about your military life. So, when everybody's a kid, we all have dreams of becoming a pilot, becoming an astronaut, becoming a doctor. But as we grow old, we become realistic. We're like, I don't think I can do that, right? But you're one of those exceptions who had a dream as a kid and who went on and achieved that dream. So how were you able to achieve your lifelong dream, and why military? Why Air Force?
Yeah, a great question. And what you said does it definitely hits home. It probably hits home to a lot of people that when you're younger, you have a lot of dreams and aspirations. You set a lot of goals, and you set the bar, and you should rightfully set the bar high for yourself. I think we all do that. And then the friction and other forces in life kind of come to fruition, and a lot of times the pathway can feel like it's closing in. I think from my experience, it's keeping that focus, constantly working towards the goal, so that if you can incrementally move just 1 inch closer to your goal every day, it doesn't have, you can't make you don't have to make a big step every day. If you can just incrementally move forward a little bit every day, then you'll be surprised at the end of X amount of time just how far you've gotten and how much closer you are. So yeah, to your point, how to stay on that path and how to make sure you achieve those goals. That's, to me, that was the only way, and that is the way I did it. Like, I kind of did set my goals, which when I was, and they changed throughout life, and that's normal. The initial goal was to be a pilot. It wasn't to join the military or become an airline pilot or something like that. I just, at a very young age, what fascinated me was the whole, like, how does this work, and do I have the ability to do it, right? And so I just made sure I kept moving along that path. And a lot of times it's just luck, right? Like, it was just luck that in grade, I think it was grade 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly the grade it was. I'm sorry, not that young. Grade 8 or 9. A friend of mine just mentioned that, hey, there's this organization called Air Cadets, and they provide scholarships to people to get a glider license and pilot's license. And I was like, "What? This is insane! You got to be kidding me! How did I not know this before?" So that was just pure luck, right? But once that opportunity opened up, I took full advantage of it. Like made sure my parents got me, took me to the cadets, made sure I got myself enrolled, make sure after that, the kind of pathway opened up, and I did go through the cadet program. That's how I got my pilot's license. I got my glider's license, got my pilot's license through the cadet program. But it was, it wasn't that simple. They don't just hand those scholarships out. You have to compete. You have to be competitive. I remember in high school, you have to go through the ground school process, the academic process. So when you're in grade 9, every week, not every weekend, but almost every weekend, going to ground school classes for 2 to 3 hours on the weekend to obviously learn all the background you needed in order to get a pilot's license. Studying through that along with all the other studies I was doing in school. So all those things incrementally, little by little, step by step, led to ultimately getting that initial goal, which was I wanted my glider's license. And then after that, I wanted my pilot's license. And so just went on from there.
Interesting. I know you mentioned in one of your interviews with Jesse on the 5-Minute Friday that your parents or grandparents were also in the Indian Army.
One of my so that was on my my mother's side. Her oldest brother was what was brother-in-law? God, to be honest, I can't remember. But was in the Indian Navy.
Okay.
Navy, yeah. I believe it was the Navy. Yeah.
So did that also like influence the decision being in the Army?
I did not know him. I didn't. It was so I would say directly not.
Okay.
And most people in my family. Well, there's very few people in my family that have any military experience. So I can't say I come from a military family. Like my I think my dad was in the Indian Army for a period of time, but he wasn't a career person. There was my uncle I already spoke about. There's been a few cousins, kind of distant, that have been in the militaries, but I don't come from a military background. So the choice to go military for me was something that stemmed from just my sort of looking around, seeing what options I had, what would fit my life, where I wanted to see my life going, and that was kind of how I ended up on that one.
Interesting. Wow. So you've been in the military for 34 years now?
33 in total.
33 years.
Yeah, and that's a combination of both reg force and reserve. So towards the end, I got out of the regular force and went into the reserve force, which is essentially like a switch between full-time and part-time.
Right.
There's all their admin stuff to it, but and then got back to the reg force for a little while, and then I did fully retire. So in your intro, minor correction, I'm ex-major.
Okay.
So I don't hold a rank right now anymore because I did fully retire.
Oh, well, for us, you're still a major, to be honest. Well, I want to talk to you about their military career. So 33 years, right? That's a long time. And military is a place where you learn discipline, you learn camaraderie, you learn all those things. How has military shaped you as a person?
Well, yeah, you're right. You learn a lot of these elements, discipline, you learn leadership skills, you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about others. And in terms of shaping me, I mean, in some ways, it can enhance what you already are. So if you're already a natural leader, right? The experiences that the military is going to put you through will naturally bring those elements out and help you enhance them if you let it. Like it will it will take the skills, kind of what you already have, or the attributes you already have, I should say, and help you develop those as far as you want. So it's helped me expand all, the leadership skills, management skills, the personal interaction skills that I wanted to develop, and help me develop those as far as I wanted to go in those areas. Right. So yeah, it's definitely turned me into what I am today, for sure.
Interesting. Wow. And like you're applying those skills in being a like angel investor.
Well, yeah. So I a lot of the skills that, and it seems maybe counterintuitive, that the skills you learn in the military environment can help you as an angel investor, but it takes a lot of discipline, and it takes to do both. It takes leadership. I guess you could express leadership as an angel investor in the sense that you have the courage, and you talked about this at the beginning. You sometimes have to tell individuals what you really think, right? So that itself also takes courage, because you have to be able to tell them, hey, this is why you're probably not getting the traction you're looking for. This is your idea is great, but you're missing the key elements of how to actually go about monetizing this. And no one, giving somebody bad news or not ideal news is always tough. But so builds that strength of character where you got to be able to do that, and do it in a way that is creative. Sorry, not creative. Sorry, constructive. That's something that isn't going to destroy the individual, because anyone can do that, right? Anyone can walk in and say, yeah, you know what, your idea is crap, this isn't going to work, and just walk away. But to actually do it in a way that is going to provide that person with something that they can build upon to either make the idea that they have better and progress it, or them realizing that, okay, I don't have these skills or ability to pivot, to continue with this, and I'm going to pivot to something that does, or move on to something else, because there's no harm in that either. There's no harm in realizing, you know what, this idea took it to as far as it can go. I don't have the skills, knowledge, or energy to progress this any further, and I'm going to move on to something else. And that also takes a lot of courage, because a lot of us, as you know, probably hang on to things that a lot longer than we should, right? And it takes a lot of courage to let go of that and just admit that, you know what, this doesn't work out, I'm just going to move on to something else. So all those skill sets, which I think I developed through the military, they all apply here in what I'm doing right now.
Have you heard of the sunk cost fallacy?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
like it blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of friends basically who did a degree in business, right? And who are doing a degree in business. And I asked them, so what do you want to do now? So you've done a degree in business. They're like, I'll find a job somewhere related to finance or accounting. And then I asked them, like, do you have an interest in finance and accounting? They're like, you know what, actually not. But now that I've spent so much money in doing a degree for 4 years, I'll just do that. I'm like, that's a sunk cost fallacy, like right there. We think that since we've put in so much time and money and effort into something, we have to continue with it. But sometimes it's okay to quit, okay to let go and pivot into something else. It's like the hardest part is to realize that the mountain that you've been climbing was the wrong mountain, and you might have to go back and start all over again.
I absolutely, yeah, you hit on a really good point. And I think we're all just naturally prone to that
Right.
fallacy, right? I'm guilty of it too. Like, I'm sure, there's times I've done that in my life as well. And it takes a lot of courage to walk away from that, like you just said. And there's times in my life where I've had to say, okay, you know what, I've worked on this project for this long, or I've invested a lot of time and energy to push my career in a certain direction, but now I don't see that pathway working out the way I wanted it to, and now I'm yeah, I'm gonna move on to something else. My wife and I kind of had to do that with. She's in a career that's also very demanding. She's a dentist, and that's pretty. Not only does she have to do the dentistry, but she has to run the business, right? And so that takes a lot of work and effort. And for the good portion of our lives, we were, uh, there's only so many resources in terms of time, I guess, and energy that a family has, and so we were trying to say, okay, we'll push my career forward, and maybe keep hers kind of like it's important, but maybe not just push that one. But then we realized the point that there were certain things that were happening that were limiting my ability to progress career wise, and so we opted to shift that focus around. Take instead of fighting what seemed like maybe a good bit was the good fight, but it was not right to continue down that path, and just shift it around. So that's to your point. That's maybe an example where instead of just sinking more costs into this one area, we switched it around. We started focusing more on what she could do, and I took what would be considered a bit of a slow back, or we would say in the Air Force, throttling back a little bit, to focus on her side of her career as opposed to mine. Yeah, that was tough. You talk about courage. That takes a lot of courage.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. So, I want to talk to you about being an Air Force pilot. What are some things that you face as a person that like the normal people could like never imagine? Like there are some things that are so difficult, you have to go through tough days, you have to go through dark times that people just don't see.
Yeah, there's definitely tough. So the training, everything about the military is high demand, right? So all the way from recruitment to your basic training to just the situations you're put into, it's a high demanding, high performance job, and a lot of generally in general you're gonna find yourself in a situation where the stakes are gonna be high. So like the on the aviation side, and I had kind of two career paths in the military. Kind of, I think I spoke about this a little bit earlier. That initially when I joined in as a aerospace engineer, and then switched from that to pilot. That was you get a lot of days where you find it really really hard to reach that level of performance that's required. So you got to be able to sum up the courage, sum up the stamina and the strength in order to meet that. So, like for example, in the aviation side, especially in the training side, you're pretty much on an evaluation schedule every day. So every flight is like a mini test. Yeah. So the preparation required for that is quite high. Like you're pretty much preparing several days in advance for each mission. You got to be ready for. They call it. There's certain phases of flight that you have to be ready for. So you got to be ready for your next two missions in each phase of training that you're in. So in a phase would be like, for example, clear hood. They call it clear hood, which basically means flying by reference to the ground and horizon, and then instrument, which is basically flying in reference to the instruments. So you need to be ready for your next two flights in each of those phases. So that's a lot of material to be ready for. And then once you go to start let's say the preparation, not the preparation, sorry, when you go to actually get scheduled on that can switch on you at the last minute. So let's say we'll see the schedule at the end of the day for the next day, and you can be booked, let's say in the first wave launch, and then you wake up in the morning, and for whatever reason, various reasons, that has now switched, either due to weather or just usually it's the weather, aircraft availability, or for whatever reason that has now switched. So now you have to immediately be able to switch to whatever was the backup mission that you had to prepare for, and then go into that. So those types of stresses where you need to be, and so I'm speaking only from the training perspective here, that you need to be ready for whatever is going to be thrown at you on that day, and it's within a controlled set, but that's what you got to be ready for. So those are some of the things where it's putting your best face forward, putting your best foot forward, and being able to just having the courage to just go out and do it. Sometimes you're going to be doing things that you feel like you're not prepared for, but you're just going to have to do it and hope things work out for the best. So again, that's happened a bunch of times too.
How do you deal with stress?
How do like in general? Or?
Yeah, in general, like, because you mentioned that you have these schedules and then it might change like at the end moment. Like, that's mentally stressful because you mentally prepare yourself.
So what I do, or what I did when I was going through the training system, is my way to deal with that type of stress is to be as prepared as possible. So one of the, if everyone talks about superpowers, like what I find is my ability to take, to assess the situation and then do my homework. And that's one thing I've always been good at is doing my homework. And so this is, this goes all the way back to elementary school and high school where, and again, not trying to brag, but I had always had really, really good marks. Okay. So how do you get really, really good marks? By doing your homework. And so what does that do for me? What that did for me was help relieve a lot of that stress in terms of what is going to come up. So there's a schedule. Your schedule, you're told, hey, here's 2 different phases of flight training that you have to be ready for, and you have to be ready for the next 2 missions in each of those phases. So that's 4 missions you have to be ready for at any given time. And we'll give you a schedule, so you'll have 24 hours notice, but we can change that on you within about an hour prior to the brief. We can switch it to something else because the weather changed, or that instructor is no longer available. They're sick. You're not flying with this instructor, and they want to do this mission set, or whatever reason is, something's changed. Well, the only way you can be ready for that is by being prepared, which is essentially saying, do your homework. so yeah, I've always had that ability, mindset, not ability, it's just a mindset, it's just an attitude to always be as prepared as possible for multiple different outcomes that could happen given, a defined set of criteria, right? So it's not like I'm ready for everything at all times. That's not possible. I'm just within what I expect is going to happen. I'm ready. I'm as ready as possible as I can be. And so to me, that helps reduce my stress level. I feel like, okay, I've got this. I know that, under these scenarios that could happen, this is the range of scenarios that could possibly happen tomorrow. I've prepared for all of them, literally, as far as I can tell now, and that makes me feel a lot less stressed. I'm usually not stressed. I'm usually only stressed when I'm like, oh, am I prepared? No, I'm not prepared. I didn't prepare as much as I could, and that's when the stress really starts to hit me.
Interesting. Wow. Huh. So, being in the military, you mentioned that you were with a lot of leaders and you learned a lot of leadership skills being in the military, and now you're applying those leadership skills in Startup TNT. According to you, what qualities define a good leader? Like, who is a good leader?
Yeah. So yeah, good question. Military career wise, I got exposed to some incredibly good leaders. I also got exposed to some incredibly bad leaders.
And you learn from them too.
Yeah, and you learn from them too. You learn from both sides. One of the things I learned in the military is that there's very, very few people that are good leaders in all scenarios. There's some people if they're out, yeah. And I'll try to explain what I mean by this. But I don't see leadership as a leadership in all cases. You can't take a business leader and then they're the leader on the ice in a hockey team. Right? You can't take or on the basketball court, or you can't take someone. Conversely, you can't take someone who's a good. They'll have the elements of leadership. They'll have the attributes of a leader, but it takes. You have to be fully rounded within that context of that you're operating in. So, that's a very broad statement. I don't think anyone would really necessarily argue with that. But then what I also started to notice is that some people are great in motivating you to get certain things done within a certain context, but then anywhere else, they're not. And some people will argue or push back on that, but here's where I can maybe hopefully explain what I'm getting at. So in any given squadron, and this is probably any squadron in the world, but definitely on Western Air Forces, you'll have a leadership structure within that Air Force, within that squadron. And
sorry, what's a squadron?
Squadron, like an Air Force squadron. So a squadron will be like think of it like a platoon.
Okay.
Okay, but yeah. It's the Air Force version of a platoon. So basically, it's the unit that would contain the pilots, the technicians, the admin staff, the auxiliary staff, the airplanes, and you can say, Squadron XYZ, I want you to deploy to this region and exercise this mission set. Right. So I guess the way to look at the thing of it is a squad is kind of like a platoon so within the squadron, obviously you have a leadership set, right? And the commanding officer, the deputy commanding officer, the OPSO, the senior leadership of the squadron, they've all worked their way up the ranks. They've all highly accomplished individuals. They're experts in their jobs, in their roles. And they were most likely high performing pilots when they were younger. But when we go out on a mission, they're not always leading that mission. Within the context of that mission, we may pick somebody else who's an expert in that mission set, but hasn't progressed to the leadership of the squadron yet, and they're going to lead that mission set. So maybe something that may be hard to maybe fully explain here, but what I'm saying is that you're within the context of running the squadron, the commanding officer is running the squadron, the deputy commanding officer, the OPSO, they're running the squadron. Within the mission set that we're going to execute, let's say for training or whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily have to be them. So there are scenarios where I've flown where the person who's the lead of the mission that we're doing is like the captain, and the other individuals in that formation who are flying could be a colonel, could be the wing commander even, who's like full colonel, but for that mission set, the leader is now the designated leader, who's like could be a junior captain because they've got the right skill set in order to complete that mission. So what I'm trying to say is that leadership can come in many different forms, and it's, in my mind, it's contextual. It depends on what's going on. So the concept of leadership is not as straightforward as, well, you're a leader, therefore you're a leader in every scenario. It doesn't work that way. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Some people will push back to me and say that that's not really the case, or maybe I'm blending some of the terms, but not everybody can be a leader in every scenario. It depends on what's going on. So having said that, you need to try to become as well-rounded of an individual or leader as possible, and then see whether that fits into the context that you're going to be in. So I'm sorry, maybe deviate a little bit from the question you're asking there, but I think you're asking me, what the leadership skills that from the military, and how they kind of flow out into other areas. I can definitely take some of the things I've learned, and I've seen good examples of leadership in many different scenarios, and I've seen bad examples of leadership in many different scenarios. And obviously, you want to take the elements of the good stuff and use the bad examples as what not to do, and try to apply that in a way that can help the situation that you're in. And sometimes that's just recognizing, okay, I'm not the right person to lead this group. Yeah, I can be support. I may be number 2 or 3, but I'm not the right person. It's actually this person, and that's not leadership, but that takes knowing yourself and realizing that I'm not. Even though I recognize myself as a leader, I'm not the right person to lead this group right now.
Interesting. Yeah, so you have to know yourself before you can lead other people, basically.
Yeah, so I guess what we're getting on. Yeah, that's right. You definitely need to know if you can't know yourself, if you can't recognize your shortcomings, your strengths, if you can't do all those things for yourself, then I think it's going to be hard to do all those things for others. And if you're not honest, like if you're trying to hide a weakness and others can see it, that's gonna destroy your credibility in a lot of situations, right? So I think you just need to be honest with yourself, and people will realize that, and then I think they'll be able to recognize what you provide and where your limitations are, and that's all part of being human, right? We can't be 100% in all areas.
No, and I feel like that's one of the things that I've noticed in my life of good leaders versus bad leaders. Good leaders pretend, bad leaders pretend that they know all the answers, and anybody can tell that you don't know the answer and you're just not being honest. On the other hand, good leaders keep their ego aside and they say, hey, you know what? I don't have all the answers. Maybe somebody, as what she said, maybe somebody else is a better leader in this context. So they're like honest people.
And that comes down to leadership styles. Like my leadership style I would say I'm much more cooperative. Like I don't have to be in charge all the time over everybody, right? And the other, and hitting or expanding on the point you just made there is, I can't remember where I read this. It was in one of the throughout the military, we do lots and lots of leadership training courses, all this stuff. I remember reading this somewhere that um, to be, and I don't know exactly this. This is not a quote, but the concept was that before you become a good leader, you need to be a good follower. You need to be able to look at and what I mean by that is you need to be able to look. You have to be able to see other individuals and learn from them. Like you can't be a good leader if you're not listening to your people. You need to be able to listen, right? You can't be a good leader if you're not observing what other people are going through and being able to adjust from that. So in some ways, you're following the signals of the environment around you. So you have to be able to learn from a certain. You have to be able to follow what's happening in order for you to eventually become the leader. And if you can't do that, if you can't learn from your environment, you can't learn from the individuals around you, I think they're gonna have a hard time accepting you as someone that they should follow.
Yeah, 100%. Because, like, if you can't have empathy with people around you, if you can't just like see what they're going through, then like you'll feel a lot of distance from them and they're not going to follow you because you don't care about them. I think that's like the biggest thing that people think not caring is cool. But actually, like the strongest people that I know care a lot about people.
Yeah, no, that's true. And there's lead this into maybe an area you probably don't want to go into, but I mean, there's a lot of examples of bad leadership right now,
Yeah.
as you can tell from south of the border,
Right.
and what's happening with the administration to the south of the border. Lots of examples of what I would classify as bad leaders, not really listening to the people that help put them in charge. But yeah, so taking that and all what I've learned and trying to extrapolate that out into where I'm trying to take this next phase of my life, which is going into developing really good companies, really strong businesses, and using whatever skills I can to help those founders kind of grow their ideas and their businesses into whatever they can become.
Interesting. Wow. I actually, when I was doing research on this podcast, I came across a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. I think you're going to love this one. So it's called Man in the Arena. So it goes like this: It is not the critique who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, who the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement. And at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
I love that quote. Yeah, no, I think he nailed it on the head. Um, the being that person who's, and that takes a lot of courage to be that person in the arena, right? So to do that, I think is that's what we all want to be able to do. And so yeah, I love the what that quote expresses.
Do you feel that there's are a lot of people who just are critiquing others and who are like who haven't even tried anything in their lives, but they just like to say stuff?
Yeah, I think there are. I think, but I mean, to be fair, I think in some way, shape, or form, every single one of us is in the arena in our own perspective, right? We just don't see it. Maybe they maybe not in the one we're in, right? So when I am doing something, and I don't have an example off the top of my head right now, but sometimes I'll get critiqued by someone who just hasn't gone through what I've gone through, right? They don't know what I've gone through. They don't know what it took for me to get here and why I'm making the decision I'm making. Right. And they're making a comment that with relative, with from my relative perspective, they were not in this arena.
Yeah, they're not in your shoes.
Yeah, they're not in my shoes. Sorry, that's probably a better way to say it. But they didn't go through the things I went through. So they're critiquing me on something that they just don't understand. Right. So that's not to say that they haven't done their own, they haven't gone through their own challenges and had their own fights and had to, lose and have tasted, failure or victory. So I think I don't think at least I haven't really come across a lot of people who have done nothing and are only critics. And maybe this is the nature of the group that I'm with, because in the military, I mean, there's not very few people that are just critics, right? Everyone's kind of like doing stuff. And then I went from that to working with my wife and the dental environment there. I mean, that's you definitely need to, we had to definitely be on our toes all those years, 15 years of that. And then moving into the startup world where it's not for, it's definitely not a world of critics. I'm surrounded by individuals that are, highly driven, highly focused, are definitely in the arena. So I don't feel like I've really, I love the quote, but I don't think I've really come across individuals who are just purely talking trash,
right?
Without and that's all they've done. I think they're probably most likely and maybe I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think they're just talking from a perspective of just not having known everything that I've gone through, and then therefore their comment is kind of like, you just
Right.
don't know what you're talking about.
Right. I feel like it's also because you have surrounded yourself with the right people, right?
Yeah,
Like that makes a huge difference because you are the result of your environment.
absolutely, and that's going back to what we started with, and you said goals and how to achieve them. That is one of the keys. Right? You got to put yourself around people that are going to help you achieve your goal. You always have to surround yourself by the individuals who are going to get you to where you want to be. Because if you don't, then you're just not gonna you're just not gonna get there, right? So I think was that other saying that you're the average of the five people around you. So yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's like I wanted to get into angel investing for a while. It was pre-COVID, and I just didn't know how to do it. I read and I looked at different things, and then COVID happened because this was like literally right before COVID. I'm like, okay, well, this, but coming out of COVID, I I came across Startup TNT, and that put me in the group I was looking for. I was looking for other angel investors, looking for individuals who had the same mindset, not just that they had money to invest into small startups, but had the mindset of developing community, making friends, having fun, that they were in the mindset of helping local communities, not just I just want an investment to turn out 6% a year and that's it, I'm happy or whatever. Part of my full portfolio does that, but I'm looking for where I can support somebody who is in the arena, right? Who's pushing it, and if I can take all the stuff that I've learned over the last X number of years with all the stuff I've done, and then maybe provide a little bit of advice, guidance, support, whatever it is, to this individual who I think is doing something that is really worthwhile. So that's where I've been really, really lucky in the last little while to surround myself with, just what I think are just amazing high performance individuals.
What do you enjoy the most about being an angel investor other than the money?
Well, to be honest, there's not a whole lot of money, but I mean, at least not yet. I haven't found my Uber.
It's a long day, man.
Yeah. So yeah, but the main thing is the individuals. Like it's always about the individuals. I mean, that's what I loved about the Air Force was the individuals I got to work with. Yeah, there's always going to be the odd, dickhead or whatever. And that's just, generally that's how life is. But the the being around young, creative, energetic, high-willed individuals who are just driven to get stuff done, that just I love that. So I mean, I literally am paying to be a part of that, right? As an angel investor, I'm literally paying money to be a part of that group. And even if if investment doesn't go anywhere, at least I can say, yeah, I got to hang out with these really cool people. So, or at least be a part of it in a sub-minor way. So that's what I love about it.
So being an angel investor, so when you pick a company, do you pick the people or do you pick the idea?
Oh, that's interesting. You worded it that way. Yeah. We always say focus on the founder first, but and that is important. But I like to look at both the founder and the idea, making sure there's a match, right? There has to be. I have to believe that this particular idea pushed by this particular person is the right connection. Because you could have a great idea and it's like, yeah, that's a great idea. This person has that idea, but I just can't, like, they're just not, the connection isn't there. There's what they call founder product fit. So there's market product fit, right? Which means or product market fit. So this is the right product for that market, but is this the right founder for that product? and to take that product, like I don't know the individual's name, but the person who invented liquid death didn't even invent it. Sorry, he grew it. Liquid death is water in a can. Like basically took a water bottle and said, "How can I make this better? Oh, I'll just put the water in a can." Okay, I could have had that idea, but I do not have the charisma, style, persuasiveness, or whatever
Right.
to sell water in a aluminum can. But this person did, and they turned it into a massively large company. Now you see lots of spin-offs from that.
Right.
I mean, essentially, it was a startup. So you need to have the a mix between the two.
Interesting. There's also a good story about somebody who, like, I think his professor challenged him to sell rocks, and he literally used to paint rocks, and he would market rocks as like a pet, and even millions and millions of dollars literally selling rocks.
That's another great example. Like you need to have the right person with the right product, and obviously there's a subset in there. I mean, that's like almost saying, there's probably a group of a couple thousand people that I could have married, right? That would have worked out with, right? So there has to be that fit in there, and that's what's going to make it successful. So I don't. So to go back to your question, do I look at the idea of the person? Got to look at both. I would, but I would generally tip the scale towards the individual, because most products generally require a pivot, right? And if you have the right person, and this is the argument for people who are hard over, there's so many angel investors I know of that purely look at just the founder, and they'll only look at the founder. They don't really care about the product. Yeah, the product has to make sense. Obviously, I guess you could sell rocks, but but it can't be just like a ridiculous product. It has to serve a need. But they almost like 99% look at the founder, because their argument is, if I got somebody like an Adam Newman, I can just pivot the product until something sticks, and then it's gonna go nuts on the market. But I can't. It's harder to pivot the founder. You can't really, you can't keep swapping out founders. So they'll focus way more. But I guess where I'm at right now with my experience and level of investing is I look at almost like a 60-40-ish type of a split.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's a good idea. Wow. Okay, I want to jump into parenting. And before the podcast, we talked about how parenting is, I shouldn't say probably, but is the most important leadership position that we have, right? And because at the end of the day, a kid is just a blank slate.
Yeah.
And their parents raised them, and they are the leaders for him. Even if they realize it or not realize it, they are the leaders. So at the end of the day, every parent is a leader. What have you learned about leadership being a parent?
A lot. Patience, taking the time to understand your child, because children are a blank slate, but each child comes with their own personality. Like, you realize that's something that I also, I guess, before having kids, thought that each kid was literally like, like a blank slate.
They do what I tell them.
Yeah. Well, that they will come out almost all the same. You know what I mean? Like, their brain is not empty. Okay, when they come out there, like, they can't speak, and they can't really communicate, but they definitely come out with, all of us come out with our own personalities that starts to show right away. And so you have to help that person, who just, when you're born, I mean, you have no mechanism by which to interact with the world around you, right? Like, you can't speak, you can't walk, you can't do anything, you literally can't do anything, and so you have to be able to handle all of that from every aspect, and help them get to the point where they can interact with the world around them in a productive, meaningful way that is going to be the best for them. And, finding that solution is different for every child. It's not the same process. What we had to do with our oldest son to our middle son to our youngest son, very different. It was all so you can't even. So throughout all that, then it goes back to kind of the principles I was talking about earlier, where you need to be a follower to be a leader. You need to be able to look at the signals around you. In this case, the signals coming from your child, and then be able to adapt your leadership style, skills, whatever you're doing, so that you can do the best thing for that child to develop to their maximum potential. And that maybe not the best answer, but that's what I think is the one thing that I learned as a learned about leadership from being a parent, being able to adapt based on the situation.
Interesting. Yeah, being flexible, because as you said, every kid is different. So the principle that you applied on your first kid can't apply on the second kid or the third kid.
Yeah, what you choose to say and do to motivate the one probably isn't gonna work on the other kids, right? You're gonna have to talk to them differently. You're gonna have to motivate them differently. You're gonna have to give them more attention in one way or less in another, and it's always different. So yeah, that you need to be able to be flexible.
How's being a dad?
Some days I love it, some days I hate it, to be blunt. But no, I mean, generally, you obviously would never trade it for anything else. I would never want to not do it, and it's been an amazing experience. Like it's from the time, and all the kids are being there right from the birth for all the kids, and now watching them grow, like it's an undescribable experience, and it's one of those things that I would not deny anyone having. I think it's one of those experiences. Like you've been offered like all of us mostly have been offered the opportunity to be fathers, right? You definitely don't want to go through life without being a dad. So it's like the full life experience, right? So yeah, it's been amazing.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you know Simon Sinek?
Yes, I know.
So he was talking about parenting, and he said that like being a parent is horrible. There's so many things that you need to do. Like it's 90% of the time it's like, so much stress, and there's so many things that go into it. But like that 10%, like that's worth all the efforts.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I totally agree. Yeah, and that's why I said, that's why I responded at the very beginning the way I did. Some days I love it, some days I.
Yeah.
But it's not I don't hate being a dad. It's like like everybody else, there are days where you're feeling down or things are just not going right, and it's just a bad day. But and there is a lot of work. Like you're constantly, like I haven't had I would say I haven't had a good night's sleep ever since I became a dad, right?
Really?
Like you just don't you'll start worrying about things you've never worried about before, because you're now feel like, at least I felt like, I'm 100% responsible for this other individuals, more so than when I was a leader of anything else, right? Like you can be a leader on a team or a business group or whatever, but you're and you can care about your staff, your employees deeply, but that's never going to be the same as the 24/7 that's required when you're a parent, and the constant, like, how is this impacting them? What are they doing right now? All like that whole mindset, that constant, at least for me, that constantly is going on in the background. So there's that part. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. Like I agree with what Sam's breakdown of this, but that's also that life experience that you don't want to give up. Like it wouldn't be a big deal if it wasn't that, right? If it was like, would being a parent or a father be a big deal if it was easy? Probably not, right? Like the reason it's a big deal is because it's so demanding and so hard. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that. So that for me, I actually take pride in that, and I like to actually, I wouldn't say, I have no other way to express it other than saying I actually like that part of it, because then now it knows that, because that makes me feel like, yeah, this is worth it.
Do you feel that it motivates you even further, that you're now responsible for 3 other individuals, so you work harder?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that before having kids, pretty much just only really did things for me, or I mean, we did for other people too, but like there wasn't as much of a drive. Whereas now it's like, I feel like a lot of things that I'm doing to make sure that they're going to have a good life, that they're going to have the things that maybe I didn't have, and they're that things are going to turn out right, right or the best for them.
Interesting. Okay, we'll jump on to our last topic of this podcast. So I started this podcast based on this idea that I actually don't know my purpose in life, right? And like, sure, I have a job, I make decent money, I'm not a millionaire or anything, but doesn't fulfill me. And I'm not saying that like the job doesn't fulfill me. The job is awesome, but the work that I'm doing doesn't fulfill me, and I feel like more money isn't gonna make me happy, isn't gonna make me more fulfilled. I'm trying to find my purpose in life, right? So the whole idea is to talk to people who have found their purpose, people who are on the journey trying to find their purpose, right? Because I feel like we're a generation of overachiever, underfulfilled people. We have money, we have good physique, we have everything, but we're not fulfilled. We're really empty because we live in this easy world where everything is like on your fingertips. You can order groceries online, you can even order emotions through social media. If you want to feel sad,
Really?
Yeah, like if you're feeling
How are they
sad
delivered?
through media. So like if you're feeling sad,
Okay.
Instagram would give you a reel that'll make you even sadder. If you're feeling happy, it'll give you a reel that's
Really
gonna make you even happier. Yeah, so like
know.
it massages your emotions in a way that keeps you hooked, right? So everything is so easy. You don't have to go out and hunt. You don't have to go out and hunt for a purpose or meaning in life, which was like a big thing a few 100,000 years ago, right? Like people had a purpose that they want to get into the army, they want to fight for the country, and that was a big driving factor, and that built a lot of camaraderie around them. Like life was completely different. But now you can have a 9 to 5, have a decent job, make money, impress people who you don't like, right? But you don't have a purpose. So I'm going to ask you this, Hassan, what's your purpose in life?
Well, I don't have a one purpose, right? So I would address this way, maybe not to turn it around a little bit, but just maybe to present it in a slightly different manner, and then I'll get to what you're asking. Have you heard that expression? I think it's either the meaning of life or the reason of life is to enjoy the passage of time.
I think I heard it from Jimmy Carr.
Is it? I think is it Jimmy Carr? I think I'm not sure who said that or where I heard it from. I'm not sure who to attribute the quote from, so I apologize if I don't know who that's from. But it's and that kind of resonates with me. Like because a part of it is live your life, and I don't mean enjoy life, and I'm just gonna eat ice cream and watch TV. I mean like you need to have the past. We've been all given this incredible gift. I don't know what to express it as. This life, regardless of what your religious or non-religious beliefs are, we're here. Whether it's reality or not, I mean, there's this concept that we're just living in a simulation? I mean, it could be. I don't know. But the point is, we're all here. And so we should live such that we can get the most out of it. And I think that's what the word enjoyment to me means in that case. Not like I'm just going to eat potato chips on the couch. I'm going to get the most out of what I can out of life. So that's so to connect that back to the other things we were talking about. I wanted to experience what it would be like to be a pilot, and a glider pilot, small aircraft, Cessna pilot, and then I wanted to eventually know what it was like to be a full up military pilot, including flying fighters. I did it, right? I did all that because to me that was the purpose here, was to gain as many of those experiences as I possibly could, because what else are we here for, right? It's to enjoy the passage of time, to enjoy this gift that we've gotten, and not just throw it away, and not just do nothing that is or just waste it. So to me, it's to get and the purpose has changed a little bit. Like initially, it was, it was step by step, it was incremental. I wanted to get my license, so I went through the cadets. I wanted to get a degree in aerospace engineering, so I went to school. Like the purpose was at each stage was incrementally very focused, but overall it was to make sure that I got out of life what I wanted out of it. So fatherhood, marriage, helping my switching gears and and focusing on my wife's business ventures versus my career, and then eventually coming out of the Air Force and pushing into this startup world, which is like all of that was so that I can get the most out of this experience, and this life that I've been given. So my purpose is really just to get as much out of life as I possibly can. And I don't mean in a greedy way, like I want it all. I meant in terms of experience, both connected with individuals, doing experiencing as much as I possibly can, and hopefully making the world around me, better, or at least not making it worse, and having great experiences with individuals that I happen to be working with or come across. So that's what I'm trying to get out of it. And so my purpose is, it's not really like I said, it's incremental, but the overall goal is just to get as much enjoyment out of life as I can.
Of all the experiences that you have in your life, what has been your favorite one?
That's impossible to narrow down. Yeah,
like you went through phases of being a pilot, being a parent,
Yeah.
and all those things. Like in general, maybe that's a bad question.
It's a tough question because it's like after I'm gonna be turning 55 this year, so after being on this planet for 55 years,
young.
it's,
No
it's,
way.
it's,
You're 55. There's no way.
So after 55 years on this planet, it's like, well, what's my best experience? That's really really tough to narrow down. Yeah, I don't even think I can answer that. I would have to say that if there's one thing that I would definitely not want, or sorry, if I had to choose and say this is the only thing, everything else we're going to take away, well, obviously that would be the family part of it, right? Like that's one thing I would absolutely, and maybe that's a bit of a simple answer, but the family side, the flying was awesome. If I had to choose between, hey, you're going to be a military pilot or you're going to have a family, I'd say, okay, I'll go with the family, right? And that's me here at age 55 after gone through it.
Right.
My 25-year-old person may have given you maybe a different answer, but yeah. So I would say the family portion, because that's really the experiences where I've gotten the most joy, and I'll say also the most kind of stress, but definitely the most joy.
Interesting. Yeah, because like at the end of the day, like when a person dies, they don't take their money with them. The only thing they take with them the experiences, the people they love, right? I feel like it's always the simple things that are so easy to overlook, and we just think, oh, we gotta achieve this, we gotta achieve that. But then, like, what about your family? What about your mom, your dad? Like those things are, I feel like, the most important ones. So who is that? Andrew Carnegie? Not Andrew Carnegie. Rockefeller. I think Rockefeller. I think he said that he spent his entire life just making money, focusing on his, like oil and all that stuff. By the age of 30 or 40, he had all of his hair gone. He didn't have a good family life. And he said that all the money that I've made cannot compensate for the life that I gave up. All the stresses that I went through, I didn't have a family. So it's like, I would give away my money, but I need some peace. I need family.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's the material stuff you can always, you can I that stuff I don't, like you said, that's not the important stuff. It's the experiences, and the best experiences you're gonna have are probably the ones that you love, right? So it's, for me, that's my family. If I didn't have a family, if I had not gotten married, then it would have been, either my siblings or maybe my really close friends or associates or whatever. That's probably what would have been my family. But since I have a family, those are the people I'm closest to. That, I think, naturally is going to be the things that I'm going to say are the best experiences in my life, or relate to the best experiences of my life. Yeah, I mean, all the other material stuff, that's awesome. That makes life interesting and fun in a in a material way, and that's great. But the stuff that really sinks home is what is the family experiences. So that's the stuff I wouldn't trade for anything else.
Interesting. Okay, we'll move to the rapid fire round now.
Uh-oh.
So I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. 4 questions, actually. I'm gonna ask you 4 questions. You have to answer in 1 word, 1 sentence. You can also elaborate. Like, it's not a hard and fast rule. If you could make one rule that everybody in the world had to follow, what would that be?
Listen to your mom. That everyone has to respect everybody else. So if I could somehow snap my fingers like Thanos, and I wouldn't eliminate half the universe, I would make everybody respect everybody else. And I think that would be the start to making the universe a better place.
Interesting. Okay. If you could talk to anybody, dead or alive, who would you talk to, and what conversation would you have with them?
I had to only pick one person that I could talk to,
Right.
dead or alive. So I would love to chat with Neil Armstrong. So, first man on the moon. Obviously, yeah, I would. He was the first, and there was other astronauts who went to the moon as well, but he was him and
Buzz Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin, and it was I'm forgetting the names now. I'm really bad with names when I'm under pressure. But Cooper, I can't remember the guy who was in the capsule, circling the moon. I mean, those guys were the first to actually go to another body. They were the first to go that far away from the Earth's atmosphere. So my conversation to them would be, talk to me about all the training that it took to get to that point where you felt you were ready to go. Because you could just think of the minds, like you're doing something that no one has ever done.
Right.
And there's things go wrong. There's absolutely no one who's going to come to help you. Like, I would just love to talk to them about the different experiences, mindsets, what they went through. Just think about it. You're going to go to the moon. Like, what if they damaged the lunar lander on landing and we're still alive but can't get off?
Right.
Like, what do you go through?
Right. Because nobody's coming to help them.
Yeah, we're not sending a rescue mission. So does the guy in the capsule just take off after a little while, just leave back for Earth after a little while, or does he stay there? Or how do they get like? So those types of things, I would love to chat with those to well, Neil Armstrong, but really any one of those three, I
Right.
would love to chat with.
Interesting. Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation. Okay. What's your favorite restaurant in Regina?
Right now, right now, it's the Korean place. I think it's Life So Good. I think it's called on Vic. There's I think it's Korean. Can I look it up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I asked this question because I'm always looking for restaurant
Yeah.
recommendations.
We've been there a couple of times. I highly recommend it. And Life is Good is what it's called.
Interesting.
It's on Victoria.
Okay, I'm gonna note it down.
It is Korean. And the owner there, again, I'm really bad with names, but she's great. Like she's great with our young one. She treats us great.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like it's we always have an awesome experience when we go there.
Is that like your go-to place?
I wouldn't say go. We don't go there very like we've been there a few times. We just like literally just found about it just a little while ago. So we've only been there twice. The food is awesome. It's one of those style restaurants where the hot plates are in front of you. So they bring the food out, hot plates in front of you. They get and it's Korean style. So yeah, we love the food there. The service is great. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay,
trying
noted.
out.
Yeah, I've noted down. Okay, perfect. So last question. What are you most grateful for in life?
The my family, the opportunity to have a family, and the opportunity to not just have the family, but to support my family in the way that I've been able to. So that's what I am most thankful about.
Awesome. Well, that's the perfect way to end the podcast, Hassan. Thank you so much. I couldn't have asked for a better guest for like my first podcast, right? So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Camille. I mean, this has been Nikhil, sorry, and this has been an amazing experience. I really appreciate. I feel honored that you had me come in as your inaugural guest.